With just a few simple supplies, we're going to transform these Dollar Tree items into high-end spring and Easter decor. I hope you enjoy. I purchased this cute bunny from Dollar Tree a couple of years ago, and I think they still carry these. I previously painted the egg and flowers, but I want to give this a completely new look. I'm starting off with Waverly's chalk paint in the color Mineral. I'm using chalk paint because it adheres to most anything, and since I want to make it a bit darker, I'm adding a medium gray acrylic paint. And to give it even more texture, I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of baking soda. Make sure to mix this thoroughly so that there aren't any clumps in it, and then using a clean soft brush, I'm going to apply this paint mixture to the bunny in very thin coats because we're going to build the coverage up as we go. Make sure to get into all the nooks and crannies and make sure that it is completely covered. This paint mixture is going to create a faux concrete look. Once you have applied the first coat, allow that to completely dry. Using a stiff dry brush, apply your second coat by dabbing the paint onto the bunny. This is going to create even more texture. And to keep your paint from drying out in between coats, you could always put the container of paint in your refrigerator. Once you have applied your second coat and allowed it to dry, you may even need to add a third coat using the same method by dabbing the paint onto the bunny. Using some white chalk paint, or you could use acrylic paint, and a dry brush, I'm going to dab the brush into the paint, wipe most of it off on a paper towel, and then use that light amount of paint to create highlights all over the bunny. This is going to create some depth and dimension, enhancing that faux concrete look. Once you're satisfied with how your bunny looks, you want to protect the paint because over time the baking soda and paint could chip off. To prevent that from happening, you can add a clear sealant or even Mod Podge. In Dollar Tree, you can find some of the cutest sisal bunnies just like this one, but we're going to give it a little bit of a makeover, first by removing the sign and flowers that the little bunny is holding. And I'm just using my hairdryer to help loosen up the glue. And if you accidentally pull a piece off like I did, you can always hot glue it back on. And luckily, I have plans to put something in the front so you won't even notice it at all. Using a mini bird's nest and some berry garland from Dollar Tree, I'm going to put one end through the side of the bird's nest and then kind of twist that around. Then I could put the other end on the opposite side. I decided I wanted it to be a little bit thicker, so I cut another strand to twist around the original strand. And once I get to the end of that, it's going to look like the cutest little basket with a handle. I can now attach this to the bunny using some hot glue and gluing the handle to the hands and the nest to the feet. Then I took a stem of little white flowers to tuck down in between the hand and where the bottom of the basket is and hold that in place using some hot glue. I added in a few pastel eggs to the basket. And I have this really beautiful pink sheer ribbon from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to make a very simple bow with 2 long tails so I can hot glue this to the handle at the top and then trim my tails down. And of course, we've got to make a little buddy for this bunny. So I'm going to take a second sisal bunny and simply remove the egg from the center. And using some of Dollar Tree's mini carrots, I am going to remove the greenery from that so that I can replace that with something that looks a little bit more realistic just by hot gluing these little stems down into the top of the carrots. 3 of these will fit perfectly right there between the hands of the bunny, and to hold that in place, I'm going to use some hot glue. This is the first year I've seen this bunny at my Dollar Tree. They are absolutely beautiful as is, but if you wanted to, you could paint it brown to have more of a rattan look. I do like this white wicker look, and I want to leave it that way, but first I'm going to remove the bow. I want to replace it with something else. I'm going to heat the glue up with my hair dryer and then pick all of the leftover glue out using my little Cricut weeding tool. I felt like it would look a little bit more high-end if the eyes blended in with the piece. So I'm going over them with some white chalk paint. Let me know what you think, if it looks higher end with all of it white, or should I have left the eyes black? Now it is time to make a bow. I'm using some twine and I have 3 different types of ribbon. I have plaid, burlap, and lace. I have 8 of these, a little over 3 inches, 8 of the burlap, and 4 of the lace. I'm going to stagger them on top of one another in a crisscross pattern on top of the twine. Once I have all of my ribbon on there, I can pull that very tightly and tie a knot. We are creating a messy bow. Now take your twine, pull it to the back side of the bow, tie another knot, but have it going in the direction of the bow itself, like this. To cover up the knot on the front, we're going to use a pretty brown button. These come in a little package from Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue that right in the center and then leave the extra twine so that you can tie this to the bunny, have a simple bow on one side and a messy bow on the other side. And then if you ever change your mind and want to switch things out, you can just remove this by untying it. I found the most precious picture frame at Dollar Tree. It has these beautiful butterflies on it. The first thing I'm going to do is remove everything from the frame because I printed out the hem of the old rugged cross. I cropped it to better fit my frame, and I'm using the glass to trace around so that I can cut this out and place it inside of the frame. Now you could leave it just like this, but I want to add something else. I'm using 2 regular craft sticks. I'm going to cut the rounded ends off of one of the craft sticks using my handheld miter shears. For the other craft stick, I started by cutting the rounded end off, then laying this on top of the other stick to determine how short I needed to cut it. I left about 1 inch off of each side from the middle piece. Then I'm going to go over it with some sandpaper to make sure that it's nice and smooth and round out some of the corners. Using some hot glue, I can now glue them together. And I'm going to paint this with 1 coat of black acrylic paint on both sides. Allow that to completely dry because I'll be using some gold leaf rub and buff to go over this entire piece and give it a beautiful antique gold look. I'm applying this with my finger, making sure to get the edges as well. To get in between the little crevices where the 2 pieces meet, I used a paintbrush, and then you'll let that completely dry. Now, if your gold doesn't match perfectly with your frame, you can then take your gold leaf rub and buff and go over the entire edge of the frame so that both of these pieces will blend in beautifully. Once the rub and buff is dry, we can now add some hot glue to the back side of the cross, and I'm going to place mine diagonally right there at the corner, and I think this turned out absolutely gorgeous. Using one of the large resin eggs that you can find at Dollar Tree, this is a very simple project. I am using some gold leaf rub and buff to go over the outline of each of these flowers to really elevate the look. You can add as much or as little rub and buff as you like. And I think this project pairs perfectly with our previous project. I I hope you enjoyed today's projects, and if you have a favorite, let me know in the comments section down below because I always love to know which one is your favorite. If you haven't subscribed already, I would love you to click that subscribe button right below the video. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.